gardeners are working on our yard, and I expect them to come to the door at any moment, tell me I have to do something or other. So I've had an interesting 2 days. On Friday, I had my 7th radiation treatment for a tumor on the skin of my head right here. That was cut away. And yesterday I had an MRI of my prostate gland because my PSA is up to 4.2. And 4.2 is borderline. Something might seriously be wrong. The MRI was very interesting. It was very entertaining. It makes all different kinds of sounds while you're trapped in a little tunnel. I didn't mind. It felt like being home with the television on. Hey, Maxie. You know, all the time you hear Robert and Nisargadatta and Ramana say the world is not real. It doesn't exist. You don't exist. What does that mean? Really? I used to question that all the time with Robert. Even after I had an experience where I didn't exist and that consciousness came to me. But there are many ways in which the world doesn't exist. When you're as old as I am, you look back at your life, and rather than seem long, it seems short. The time when I was reading In the Woods of God Realization at age 11 and had an experience of God and light and bliss, all of these things, all the times I got drunk, woke up in a strange place, not knowing where I was. All the time I was with Robert for 7 years or so. It's all past just a moment in time. When you get old, everything in the past seems unreal. And if the past is unreal, it seems that the present is not much to look at either. By nothing is real, in the most gross way means that everything passes. It's temporary. The illness you have for 3 days of the flu, it passes. The orgasm you experience in sex that lasts a few seconds passes. The argument you had with your husband passes in a few days. Everything disappears and passes and leaves no permanent effect on you. So Robert says, and Nisargadatta say, in the first place, act as if nothing was real, nothing mattered. And that the truth is, nothing is worth paying any attention to. Just live your life, live it out. Don't take it very seriously. None of it's real. The old Shakespeare stuff. About a tempest in a teapot. About an actor living a part on the stage, and when the play is over, he's no more. The end of your life, your body drops away. And even before the body drops away, consciousness drops. And you're not even aware of your own death, just like you are not aware of your birth. In another sense, there are certain experiences you have which makes you realize on a more theoretical level that no worldly experience is really very valuable. The experience I had of being in the shower, feeling the water on my skin and asking myself, who feels water from the shower head hitting my back? And I looked within, and there was absolutely nobody there. Just a huge emptiness. And the recognition is that we usually live in a world composed of concepts and words, which are relatively solid. They give age and permanence to things which have no age and have no permanence. Like a chair may last 40 years or 50 years. But the concept of chair is forever, for as long as humans use that word. And I had another experience a few weeks later, which Robert confirmed as an enlightenment experience. Where I was asleep, and I woke up. But before I woke up from the sleep state, I saw the waking consciousness approach me like a fog bank. And when it touched me, I was suddenly awake, suddenly in existence. In that sense, like a projected movie, nothing that comes and shows itself to you is anything but an appearance in consciousness. And as such, it doesn't have any existence as a hard object in the external world. It's just appearance in consciousness, and consciousness is everything that is. So, when Robert says, you do not exist, fuck. What to do. They're out there waiting for me. I've got my underpants on.
Sent Karima.
Karima's asleep. She sleeps until 1. We'll have some silence for a while until this passes. This will be another non-event. Oh, fuck. Hi.
Hello, okay?
I'm in the meeting on the internet now.
Okay.
Talking.
Thank you.
Come any evening, anytime after 3 to get the check.
Okay, Thursday, Wednesday.
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I knew that would happen. So where was I? Everything's impermanent. Nothing is real. And that can be a concept that flows from many different points of view. One, that consciousness is like a field of activity that comes upon us as the absolute, as the witness, and stays with us for a few hours during the day. And we have all kinds of adventures during the day, and then we go to sleep and we have more adventures when we dream, but they're not real. The other way is that nothing is permanent, and you look back at all the activities of your life, and it seems like it happened all too fast, and that none of it really stuck. In the end, it's all gone. Everything that happened in your life happened in your consciousness. And when you die, it's all finished. It's all over. And you who thought yourself so important recognizes that you're nobody, or soon to become no one, in the extent that you won't have any consciousness anymore. And you may cling to ideas of heaven or rebirth in order to preserve that consciousness which you love so much. You want to live forever, no matter how shitty your life is. So in that sense, all things pass. Don't pay them too much heed. Don't get too excited about them. Instead, look inward. Towards the source of all that activity that goes on. That very still core of witness, who watches life come and go, who watches people come and go, who watches ecstasy come and go, and pain come and go, and health come and go, and disease come and go, youth come and go, and old age coming and went. Who sees the dreams, and dreams are the same way. In one dream, maybe years pass. But everything is so weird in dreams. It has very little logic. The rules of the outside world do not apply to dream world. And that's why we say the inexplicabilities of life are like a dream. They're not understandable. You think you understand what's going on with terms of causal relationships. And then you find that there are things you can't explain, like how Trump could get 75 million people to vote for him when he's a moron, a moral cripple, and a criminal. But apparently 75 million people in the United States like that. And that kind of morality and stupidity and cruelty validates their own point of view. He validates that that's okay to be a creep, a jerk, a murderer. And now we have a president that I see as probably the best president of my lifetime, except for perhaps Johnson. And I see how many oppose him because he's a Democrat and he talks about helping poor people with his various plans and to improve the United States through infrastructure change, rebuilding the bridges and the roads. And they think that that's a despicable leftist socialist thing to do. And you wonder about the stupidity of the human race. You wonder about it. Is any of it worth it to watch this? Nothing is worthwhile. It doesn't last. The only thing that's worthwhile is to find that basic consciousness in you that makes you feel as if you exist. The sense of beingness, the sense of being alive, the sense of I am, and to stay there. When you find it, and feel your peace increase, and your body becoming more relaxed. And if instead you're a lover, and you learn how to love someone with all your might, whether it's a lover, a cat, a tree. And this takes you to the fullest extent of worship and surrender in the form of God realization, where you really realize that this life force within us is God. And insofar as we have it within us, it is also us to a degree. Even though it doesn't last, it's extremely powerful. It's the most powerful experience a person can have, is to have that explosion of love within oneself, which turns into an explosion of infinite power and light within oneself. And it destroys forever your mundane world, because you don't live in your mundane world anymore. You live in the Godhead, in consciousness, in the highest form of consciousness. And then once again begins the downward trip from heaven to nothingness. This is what happened to Nisargadatta. It's happening to me. It happened to, what is her name? The experience of nothingness. I forget her name. Does anybody know? Bernadette. And she talks about the loss of Christ in her, and the love in her of Christ, and the bliss of Christ, and thinks of the downward trip back into nothingness as a horror. To lose progressively the bliss of God or Christ in you, overtaken by Nima. Can you turn off your mic? To have the bliss of Christ or of God. Let me see if I can. To have attained God, which is the highest attainment in most religions, at least allow for that possibility, whether it be named Christ or Muhammad or whatever they call God in Muslim culture, or whether it's the Hindu way of experiencing God, whether you call it the life force. Or God. But that experience of being one with God is so absolutely powerful. You no longer consider yourself just a human being, a puny little ant. And that experience also allows you to fall back in nothingness, but filled with joy and serenity, because you've known God. You've broken out of the human mold, and you're an entirely different train, so to speak, than that of a normal human being. You've transcended humanity by experiencing God within yourself. And that experience is so transformative that you understand who you are in a different way entirely. Your consciousness, and not only consciousness, the aspects of consciousness, like the life force, awareness, activities, and the different kinds of things that go on with you, which might be called karma. It allows you to go back into nothingness and emptiness, because you take heaven with you, in a sense. You take that quiet glory of resting in God, which becomes a resting in emptiness or nothingness. And then there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. Do you know how restful that is to have nothing to do? No more parents to take care of. No more cats to take care of. No more need to watch television or even to eat. That's how it is with you much of the time. And then when activities come to you that need to be done, like feeding the cats or taking them to a vet or getting an MRI or preparing food, it's done so without the slightest stress. Your restful bliss is unbroken. Or as one might say, you can die without a second thought of regret that there's something you haven't done or something that should be done. Which brings to mind the story of the general and the Zen master. I don't remember his name, but the story goes, the general led him on, his army took over a province in which there was a temple, a Zen temple. Everybody had fled except for the Zen master, who was in the Zendo, practicing Zazen. And the general, seeing nobody, went to the Zendo and saw the Zen master sitting there unperturbed by all the noise. And he called to the Zen master, "Hey, you," who didn't respond. He just sat there quietly. The general got increasingly perturbed and confronted him, and standing in front of him and looking down on him. Says, "Do you know who I am? I am one who could run you through without a second thought." And the Zen master said, "You know who I am? I could be run through without a second thought." That kind of dissociation with the body and even with consciousness leaves you in perfect peace. It's really a religion. It's really a philosophy. It's really a practice for those who have given up on life in the world. They want nothing anymore because they have found peace, a vast peace within themselves, a vast happiness within themselves that does not depend on anything in the world. Whether it be a relationship, acceptance by society, or having a career. I love you all. I'd like you to know that peace. And the depths of that kind of wisdom comes from grabbing hold of oneself with one's attention by grabbing a hold of the totality of consciousness and witnessing and observing the various aspects of consciousness. And that consciousness exposes, like the life force within. It's totally different than anything you expect, even if you're very familiar with energies, because it's deeper than the energies. And of attention. Whether you're aware of consciousness, are you first aware of the objects in consciousness? Or are you aware of the white light or the golden light of consciousness? Are you aware of the field of consciousness, the emptiness within which everything moves and persists? When you finally know consciousness on this granular level of fundamental properties, you know yourself as fundamental properties as opposed to a person in the world. You know of yourself as consciousness. You know of yourself as the life force itself. You know of yourself as the light of consciousness. You know of yourself as that who witnesses the comings and going of consciousness, and who his own self is entirely beyond consciousness, and as a sense, that sense is entirely beyond the world. The one that Nisargadatta called the unborn, the part that never makes it into existence, but witnesses existence and witnesses the coming and going of existence. And this happens to you every day also. And if you can pay close attention to all the processes that take place during waking up in the morning, from being unaware to the feeling we're about to wake up, to the sense of the gap where we are awake, but there's no objects still. It's just our mind has not formulated a world yet. And then comes the mind, which populates that awakeness with memories and all the forms that we've learned to identify during all the life up till now. This part of us usually goes way before the body goes. Like my mother, when she was dying, she laid in bed. She'd open her eyes and see me, and her eyes maybe stayed locked to mine for a half a second at most, and then wandered off, and she was moaning and moving her head around. She wasn't there anymore. The memory part and the cognitive ability to have memories and to form images was not there. It was just a body with residual consciousness, but without the human part. Maybe you have your own stories like that about being around dying people, of how gradually they left, or quickly if they left quickly. And you wonder about that part that left, the part that was my alive mother, her consciousness, and what she was like inside, and she couldn't express it. She had given up expressing anything except memories of the past. She didn't know how to talk anymore about current events or how she felt. It was all beyond her. A kind of increasing dementia. And that kind of thing will grip all of us at some point. So you learn now to have, in a sense, have nothing in you that cares about the world. You only are aware of your own self. And you see that the world flows out of you by means of the mind. And you can truly say, all that there are happenings in consciousness. There are no objects necessary to presuppose to back that consciousness up. There's no chairs, there's no sky, there's no houses. All that there is your consciousness and your mind, which creates those appearances. And then you don't care what's real or not real. It doesn't matter whether it's a dream or you're just having a shadowy foretaste of what it's like to be in that world. Now, Jay, do you have the ultimate medicine with you right now?
Yes, I have it.
Read page 39 and 40.
Okay. Okay. 39 starts at the bottom of 38. This atomic consciousness contains the whole universe.
Wait a second. Is that the beginning of chapter 4?
Chapter 4 in my copy. Chapter 4 starts on page 37.
Okay, go to 37.
Okay, we have different copies, I think, perhaps. Once you know you exist, you want to remain eternally. Maharaj, there are many persons who have a great attachment to their own individuality. They want first and foremost to remain as an individual and then search, for they are not prepared to lose that individuality. While retaining their identity, they want to find out what is the truth. But in this process, you must get rid of the identity itself. If you really find out what you are, you will see that you are not an individual, you are not a person, you are not a body. And people who cling to their body identity are not fit for this knowledge. The names and forms that appear with different colors and all that, their origin is water. In the footnote, from the waters, everything is made, both what is manifest and what is unmanifest. Therefore, all manifestation is water.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
What he's saying there is that if you look from a generic point of view, rather than from a microscopic point of view, all objects flow from the same universal sources, whether it be water or earth or semen. They have a universal source. So he's trying to take the feeling of individuality out of identity. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
But nobody says, I'm water, but they say, I am the body. But if you say the origin of the body, then ultimately the body has appeared only from water. All these plants and everything, all names and forms, they appear from water only. But still
Now,
nobody,
obviously, that's full of shit. But once again, it's the same idea. It's either water, earth, fire, the five elements. So he's trying to take, again, that particular identification point of view and get you to the universal point of view that everything is really nothing. Go ahead.
all these plants and everything, all names and forms, they appear from water only. But still nobody identifies himself with water. They say, I am the body. The existence of heaven or hell, or whatever it is on this earth only. All names appertain to forms, and all forms appear from the earth and merge again into that. So they are concepts, the existence of heaven and hell. Discoveries are made by the scientists. They receive help from their own consciousness. That knowledge, I am itself. But what it is, they don't know. They cannot get hold directly of whatever they discover. Various books have been written, but ultimately Krishna, not a person, but consciousness in a form, has written about itself, what it is. And that I find most appropriate of all the existing scriptures.
Okay, thank you. Ian, do you have the ultimate medicine too? Okay, we'll have you read sometime too. Welcome back, Ralph. Are there any questions?
Question. Is it okay when we fall asleep during the satsang?
Yes, it's fine.
It's okay, no problem.
No problem. As a matter of fact, I used to fall asleep in Robert's satsangs a lot. And it's not a bad thing because what's happening is that your consciousness is going lower into itself. And it's no longer connected to the events of the world, the passing of the time and the objects in the world. It's going back to its source, although you're doing it unconsciously. Eventually, you'll learn how to do it consciously. Any other questions?
Yes, Ed. Hi, it's James. Ed, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Right now, who's speaking with you? Is this the illusory me, or is this the real, true self?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Could be either. Doesn't matter. It's only a concept.
And just focus on the beingness, right?
Just focus on yourself. Constantly focus on yourself. Turn your attention around from the external world and turn your eyes around, like look within. And while you're looking within, feel within. Feel the density of your body. And if you're looking within, see the darkness of your inner world. And then if there's any light that covers that darkness. And in this way of turning your attention around towards the source, you experience the sort of the basic layers of consciousness until, in a sense, the external world ceases to exist and you're in samadhi. Or if you fall asleep, you're falling asleep, which is, you might say, sleeping samadhi. Anybody else?
Thanks, Ed.
Sure.
Actually, one question.
Okay. Gotcha.
Who's speaking? I can't
when you-
see.
I'm Raju here, right? Between your waking conscious, dreaming consciousness, or deep sleep consciousness, as you pass through the states, you experience no consciousness at all in deep sleep, but still there is life energy which is making your existence. It's still making all your body parts work and organs work, and that life energy still is there. What is the source of life energy, Raji?
Well, I could make up an answer. You want that? According, read Nisargadatta, the source of the life energy is food and metabolism. And that's also the source of consciousness. Consciousness, the life force, and the sense of beingness are all kinds of flavors of the essence of food. It's a process of metabolism. In other words, the body coming alive has these things as its activities. It has consciousness. It has the life force. One of my cats is growling at another cat. So, to really know what it is, we're going to have to spend another few hundred years getting into biology and seeing what the processes are that are most quickly form the consciousness. But you are that experientially, but how it arises, that's a need. You have to appeal to religious folklore or science to give you those answers. But that will be merely objective knowledge. And it really doesn't explain anything subjectively in you, because in you, those are absolutes. Consciousness is an absolute. The life force is an absolute. What else is there? The divine energy, that's the life force. Get to know the life force. And as Nisargadatta said, worship the life force in you once you find it. Let that be your God. And that will flower into total understanding of everything that can be understood. And also get you away from being attached to the world, so that instead you can be attached to your own consciousness and recognize that you are the origin of the universe. It's all about realizing the universal exists in the particular. The universe that you know and live in pours out of your own mind and your own life force. How it does this no one knows or speaks about. It just is that way. And maybe someday somebody will talk about how it happens and what the properties are and the stages that go on. What Nisargadatta talks about that in a way that is understandable in terms of personal experiences. For example, the process of waking up is equivalent to the process of the formulation of thoughts and the expression of thoughts. And he talks about 4 stages: 2 before you become self-aware, and 2 after you become self-aware, which is your activity in the world, how you express it and how you do it. But it's just a microanalysis of something that happens in everybody in the morning, except they never look at the process of waking up in the morning. And because they don't remember that they should be looking when you wake up. You should try to get the night before, do this night after night, of when you wake up in the morning or get close to waking up, that you become aware of the process of the arising of consciousness in you. The first stage where you feel like you're about to come awake, and you know that one. And then there's the gap where you first become aware, fully aware, but aware of no objects. You have no idea who or what you are or what the world is. And then suddenly that comes to, that ego comes, that Rolf comes, or that Ian comes, or that Ed comes, or that Besselina comes. And you recognize where you are. And you begin manifesting yourself. I manifest myself the first thing in the morning by doing nothing for half an hour in bed and just playing with that state of being not aware and then aware. Or I used to do it. Now I just sort of rest there and I don't play with it anymore. I just know what it goes through. And that is an extremely potent practice, to be able to watch the process of waking up and coming into consciousness of your mind into your body. Hi, Eddie. This is my son, little Eddie. Hi. What you got on you? We have these heart-to-heart talks in the morning, don't we? I'm not aware of the things he's aware of. He's not aware of the things I'm aware of, I don't think. We live in different worlds. His world, I think, is more fun because he plays a lot, even though he's 10 or 11 years old. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yeah,
So
Ed,
Mike-
I've got it. Ed, can I talk?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ed, so the mundane world has been, okay, so I'll just talk about it. So I've understood more and more that what's been in my mundane self is that my sisters used to pretend I wasn't there when I was little. And it's starting to really surface now, the terror of that not being there. And I had a fairly strong dream last night about that. And that was because in the middle of the night, I just started to just let go of resistance because my heart was pounding so much. And I think I was given the gift of seeing that with clarity, that fear. So I don't even know what I'm asking. Just anything you can say that could help. That's all.
And that kind of trick they played on you has followed you your entire life, maybe leading to a need to announce yourself, to get attention and say, hey, here I am, fuck. You've got to take care of me. You've got to regard me. You've got to take me into your presence. Otherwise, I'll make your life miserable until you do acknowledge me. But now you're on a path to get rid of all of that.
Yeah.
And to actually become nothing.
Yes.
So you're very advanced in your training. Anybody else? You're back in the United States, Michael.